Mike Lee is a Republican senator from Utah, and as many of you know by now, he showed up to the confirmation hearings for Amy Coney Barrett, not wearing a mask, as he is testing positive for COVID-19, as far as we know. So that in and of itself is, I think, really interesting and could be its own segment. But we're going to talk about something else with regard to Mike Lee, specifically what he said that irritated me. Because what we're seeing now is Republicans effectively trying to pack the Supreme Court. It may not be traditional court packing in the way that we envision it, but make no mistake about it, what they are doing by trying to rush through a Supreme Court nominee in an election year after they said we don't confirm Supreme Court justices in an election year. I mean, let's call it what it is. This is court packing. It was court packing when they held open Justice Scalia's seat. In 2016, they stole that seat from President Obama. Didn't even give Merrick Garland a single hearing. So what they're doing is court packing. So I think that Democrats are within their right to expand the court in retaliation of Republicans stealing 2 seats. But Mike Lee has a different philosophy. He thinks that if Democrats respond to Republicans stealing Supreme Court seats from them, well, then Republicans have to retaliate, and then they have to stack the Supreme Court, or pack the Supreme Court, rather. So this is what he said. When asked about court packing, he says the GOP would retaliate by adding more seats if they got the chance, and that the Supreme Court would soon look like the Senate from Star Wars. And to that I say, all right, let's go tit for tat. Democrats should add a couple more seats to the Supreme Court, and then when you take power, go ahead, add more seats to the Supreme Court, because guess what? That is better than the alternative. If Democrats do not pursue a court packing plan, and I'm not necessarily sure that they will, in fact, I think they probably won't, then what are we looking at here? 2 to 3 decades of conservative rule where they are undoing everything that Americans have fought for. Worker rights, protections for labor, abortion rights, LGBTQ equality that took decades to achieve. All of this could be undone. So I'm sorry, but we don't have time to be refighting all of these battles that we already won when we're facing a climate apocalypse. We have to move forward. So the way that I see it, and somebody made this point on Twitter, is that either we have 2 to 3 decades of conservative rule for that entire time, or it'll go back and forth over the course of the next few decades. Sometimes we'll have a majority conservative, sometimes we'll have a majority liberal. I mean, that's preferable than just nonstop conservative, is it not? So Democrats have every incentive to pack the Supreme Court. And what Democrats need to do is be smart about this. Don't buy into Republican framing. Don't suggest that, oh, we're being offensive here. I think in this instance, make it seem as if you're playing defense. We're the ones retaliating by adding more justices to the Supreme Court, because the Constitution doesn't say that there should only be 9 justices. So since the Republicans got an extra 2 Supreme Court seats that they took from us, it's only right that we do the same thing. But you don't just let them go tit for tat. If you can, you stop them. And you don't stop them by being authoritarian. You stop them by enhancing our democracy, because Republicans, they can't win if they fight fair, right? If they are forced to actually compete for votes and not engage in voter suppression and vote purges, it's really difficult for them to win, because this is a minority party. Most people don't agree with Republicans. Their policies are incredibly unpopular, so why should we all be subjected to them? Because, our system, our democracy is deeply dysfunctional. So what does that mean? Well, if Democrats are able to take back the Senate and capture the White House, if they have all branches of government, they have a limited window to act and actually save democracy and stop Republicans from going tit for tat. So what do? If I'm Joe Biden, if I'm Democrats, and I actually have a spine, not sure that they do, but hypothetically, if this happens, if they take back government, you add more seats to the Supreme Court. At a minimum, you put 2 on there, because that's easy to justify. You say, look, they took 2, we're taking 2. We're getting those 2 back. If it were me, I would add 6 seats to the Supreme Court. Let's bring it up to 15. I think that's fine. If they want to add 6, all right, that's fine. But we stop them from doing that. How? By stopping them from getting power by actually enhancing our democracy. So the first thing that they do, and this would be difficult, but they try to abolish the Electoral College, or they make it so that way they tie the Electoral College to the popular votes of the country, the national popular vote. Because it is completely unacceptable that somebody can lose an election after getting millions more votes. Like, as much as I don't like Hillary Clinton, she should be the president right now because she got 3 million more votes than Donald Trump. I'm sorry. Because small states have a bigger say than everyone else. I mean, that's completely preposterous. It's undemocratic. So get rid of the Electoral College, and that alone would make it more difficult for Republicans to take the presidency again, because then they'd actually have to compete. If you're basing who becomes president off of a national electoral vote, they can't, do all of these shenanigans in certain districts and, reduce the number of polling places, because then we're looking at the national popular vote. It's harder for them to rig elections. Second of all, you expand the Senate by bringing more states into the union. You automatically give D.C. statehood. That's 2 more senators that will most likely be Democratic. And you might say, well, Mike, that's cheating. No, it's not. We are giving more people a say. We're expanding democracy. And in the process of expanding democracy, if Republicans are not able to appeal to the people who now have a say in our electoral process, that's on them. They've got to appeal to people in D.C. They've got to win that election. On top of that, statehood for Puerto Rico. Now, we can't unilaterally say you are now a state. What we have to do is allow Puerto Ricans to have self-determination. Let them vote. We welcome them in, but of course they have to have their own say. But if you allow Puerto Rico to become a state, then what happens? That's 2 more senators. At least one of those is going to be Democrat. So you have to make sure that you fight fire with fire, and this is not even as if you're playing dirty, because you're literally expanding democracy. You're giving more people a say in our process. You're enfranchising more people who currently don't have a say. If Republicans can't win under a more democratic circumstance, that's on them. They're the ones who have to appeal. So I think that what you have to do if you're a Democrat, and if you are the Democratic Party at large, is you, of course, pack the court, because even if we go tit for tat, sorry, that's better than the alternative of just having nonstop conservative rulings from the Supreme Court for decades. Can't have that. But if you can, you stop them from doing that by making our democracy more democratic. You consolidate democracy. And again, they're going to say that this is rigged, and they're going to, put up a big fuss about this. But they're the ones who are literally against democracy. You have the moral high ground in this argument. Democrats would be saying, look, what we want to do is make more people eligible to vote, to have a say in our democracy. And right now, people in D.C. have no senators. They have no political representation in comparison with other states. So why don't we make them an official state? Why haven't we already done this? We've done this before. We made Hawaii a state. We made Alaska a state. We keep doing this. So why is this so weird? Because Republicans can't appeal to these states? Tough shit. And if Republicans want to play a little bit dirty, cut up Texas, and try to get more senators that way, that's fine. Then Democrats should propose cutting up California, make it into multiple states so you get additional senators. Because I'm sorry, we can't keep having it so that way people in rural areas have an oversized say on what the rest of the country wants. We have to democratize our democracy further. We are not even a democracy, you could argue, because we don't meet the criteria of Robert Dahl's polyarchy. So by expanding our democracy, in the process, you make it harder for Republicans to win, because they can only win if voter turnout is low and they suppress the vote. That's what you have to do. You have to fight fire with fire, and you're operating within the confines of what is constitutionally acceptable. It's not like you are becoming authoritarian. You're quite literally expanding democracy. So if they want to argue that more democracy is bad, let them make that argument. Don't let them craft the narrative. And I am pleased to see that Democrats, including Joe Biden, are starting to say it is Republicans who are packing the court whenever they're asked about it, because that's what this is.
The only court packing going on right now is going on with the Republicans packing the court now. It's not constitutional what they're doing. We should be focused on what's happening right now. And the fact is that the only packing going on is this court is being packed now by the Republicans after the vote has already begun. I'm going to stay focused on it so we don't take our eyes off the ball here.
Now, he is wrong when he says that what Republicans are doing is it's unconstitutional. That's not actually true. What they're doing is constitutional. It's just dirty and hypocritical. But having said that, you use the Constitution to your advantage too. Expand the court, add D.C. and Puerto Rico, make them states. If you have to, chop up California into multiple states, get more senators, enhance democracy, get rid of the Electoral College. Make sure that we expand the court and then stop them from doing it. You have to be fierce in fighting Republicans because this party is a far-right extremist party that can only win elections when turnout is low, when democracy fails. And if you have to, make voting compulsory. Make voting compulsory. I know that people may have this visceral, knee-jerk reaction to the idea of voting being a requirement, but it works really well to increase turnout in countries like Australia. We need people to vote because when more people vote, Republicans lose. And we're not just saying, we want people to vote because we want Republicans to lose. We want them to have to compete for those votes. We don't want them to bank on people staying home because they hate everything about the country because neither party is fighting for them. If more people voted, our democracy would function better, right? When a third of the country doesn't vote, that's really a bad sign for the health and safety of our democracy, at least when we're looking at the long term. So what Democrats have to do is they have to really be serious about enhancing our democracy. And if they can enhance our democracy, they can pack the Supreme Court and save us from basically all of our rights and civil liberties being eroded with this, tyranny of these right-wing extremists that Republicans are currently trying to get on the Supreme Court. So that's what you have to do. You got to play hard. We're not going to violate the Constitution, but we are going to fight. And we're going to fight by doing what's right, by enhancing democracy, not fighting democracy like Republicans do.
You know the thing. You're getting nervous, man.